Hello, fabulous superstar Libra. Welcome to your horoscope for the month of October 2024. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological month, without a doubt. Big moves happening in the sky now. Boy, is it a very special time. And it truly is so special. It is going to be on the 2nd of the month that we will have a solar eclipse. This brings eclipse season to an end that started last month, and we're not going to see eclipses again for another 6 months once we head into a new year. But for now, this solar eclipse is a powerful one. It's got a lot of energy and electricity to it as well. It is square Mars. That brings with it tension, motivation, frustration. And this is an eclipse in your sign. You won't see an eclipse in your sign again for about 9 years. So these are rare moments when it is that eclipses take place in our sign. And I have seen people go through really big changes. It is a fresh chapter with a solar eclipse, a brand new pathway that opens up. It's a chance to begin again where you didn't know you wanted or needed it. In an instant, you see yourself, who you are, what your priorities are differently. And it ends up changing so much for you going forward from there. And so here we have you with this bright new beginning taking place. But that doesn't mean it's always and all of it is going to feel easy. I want to be straightforward with you. That square to Mars, it's got a sense of you feeling almost like you wish things were different. You have this very peace-loving energy. That's the thing with Libras. They do not like conflict of any kind. And then here we've got this Mars at the top of your sky. And matters of the frustrations you feel, perhaps around career, perhaps around connection to purpose, perhaps around a boss or person in position of authority, well, it ultimately ends up being fuel for some new beginning. Or maybe it's the goals you have for your life, some sense of the higher direction you desire to go, the big things you desire to achieve, and wanting your reality and yourself to align with them becomes part of the work. And so I know there are certain examples I like to give whenever I see an eclipse in someone's sign. If you've watched me for a while, you probably heard me say this, like more recently when we had an eclipse in your sign, certainly 9 years ago when we had eclipses in your sign. But here, let me go through them a little bit here, because I have seen remarkable, dramatic changes take place for people. I have seen lots of people do things like quit using drugs, quit drinking. I've seen people go through changes in their relationship as well. Their relationship status might change. I very notably remember I've seen a couple of people over the years. One person went vegetarian, another person went vegan, and then another person who'd been vegan for 10 years started eating meat again. All of these things happened with an eclipse in their sign. And it's because eclipses in your sign make you see yourself differently. And it's not about like what you're eating or, how you are in a relationship. It's about your identity, right? So it's not just about eating habits. It's about you identifying as something other than you did before, or realizing you no longer identify in certain ways than you did before. So these can be very powerful moments that serve as these turning points. It's like who you were before and who you were after. Now, if you have a birthday in the first days of this month, you're going to feel this energy that much more. And it's very likely you'll feel this energy, this dramatic, frustrating, but fresh start kind of energy throughout the year, this coming year of your life. But all Libras are going to find this a time when, in an instant, how you saw yourself, it changes. And who you thought you were, it changes. And you feel a sense of excitement and a sense of starting a brand new chapter. And that can actually be really uplifting, can be elating. I think of so much of the universe as conspiring for us to become more ourselves. Well, eclipses, they really point the way. And if you're a person who strives to stay conscious, to stay aware, well, it is that sense of alignment that can feel, a little bit more organic, maybe uncomfortable, but also like a pathway. But when it is that you haven't necessarily been paying attention, that move back on track to a higher, more loving vision for your life, which is the promise of eclipses, being aligned with them, well, that realignment can feel uncomfortable or dramatic, as might be the case now for some Libras out there. As we navigate forward on the 9th of the month, Jupiter goes retrograde, and on the 12th, Pluto goes direct. So these are two big planets changing directions. Whenever a planet is gearing up to change directions, it appears to stand still in the sky. Its symbolism is that much more heightened. It's closer to the earth than it might otherwise be. And it is at the height of its power. And when the shift actually occurs, with the retrograde, we reflect, we go within. With the direct, stuff starts happening, life starts changing. Jupiter going retro in fellow air sign Gemini, this is a worldly part of your sky, having to do with understanding your place in the world. Long distance travel, immigration, citizenship, higher learning, legal matters, along with the personal beliefs about the world that guide your life and help you to make sense of the world. And so here we have this very notable and powerful move of Jupiter. And it invites you to look at where you want to be in the world, where you are, where you're meant to be, and then take a bit of a pause as you go within and figure out your pathway there, or how you're going to get there. If it is that you are involved in an immigration, citizenship, legal matter, or maybe even having to do with higher education, an institute of higher education, well, this is going to represent one of those moments where you get a pause. Now, the actual standing still could bring with it resolution that feels fortunate, but if that doesn't happen, that's okay. What is most likely going to be the scenario is you're going to have to practice some patience, reflect more deeply, consider a game plan moving forward from here. And your next steps going forward from here. It's a time of asking yourself more important questions now. But it's also about finding the treasure within. And that includes with your morality, your philosophical, political, or religious beliefs, and how you ground yourself, orient yourself to the world based on those world views. And this could be a time when you're asking yourself those more lofty questions as part of finding the truth and your truth that is right for you. Now, Pluto going direct is a really big deal. Pluto has, since 2008, been moving through a part of the sky for you that has to do with your past and home and family situation. It has to do with your understanding of comfort and being at home within yourself, the groundedness you feel or don't feel. Having Pluto go direct now is a huge moment. It is literally a turning point, yes, but it's a turning point that allows forward momentum to occur, that in many ways is about wrapping up loose ends. And a lot of the lessons that you've been engaged in understanding your past, making peace with your past, considering your isolation, where it's healthy, where it's not, considering your home space, your connection with your parents, where that applies. All of these things might stir very strongly now for you. But really, these are lessons that have been culminating for a while now. This is the final time in your lifetime you're going to have Pluto here, so powerful, gearing up and then changing directions. And that makes this moment so special. Once it is that we get into November, Pluto will leave this part of the sky, not to return for over 200 years. So this will likely, for I think almost all of us out there probably, this will probably be it. You won't have Pluto at the foundation of your chart again over the course of this lifetime. And that amplifies the rarity and specialness of this moment, as you're invited to really get comfortable within and get honest about the barriers there, but also adamant about moving forward now. On the 17th of the month, we have this month's full moon in your opposite sign. And this full moon is so powerful. It is hand in hand with Chiron. There's a lot of vulnerability here. Sense and feeling of being exposed. And Mars is square as well. Earlier in the month, Mars was squared the eclipse that happened in your sign. Now we have a full moon in your opposite sign and Mars is square again. That's the tension, frustration, the motivation. Thinking really big picture now, but instead of it speaking to you, now with that full moon, it's about your partnerships and your key alliances in your life and how you feel about them and what they're doing for you and what they're not doing for you. Those one-on-one alliances now, wow, you're set to see the people in your life differently in some way, and it is a game-changing moment. Either this is going to be greater honesty and vulnerability and determination, or it's going to be a realization that this isn't it. Now, this can show up in business partnerships and professional alliances. They're going to go through some change, especially if they're career oriented. What you want to achieve and what they want to achieve may or may not be the same things. And so this is going to be a lot of honesty, but then deciding whether or not those alliances, those business partnerships are going to continue. And that can be a big part of the turning point moment here. However, I think many Libras out there are going to experience this energy in the context of love. And where it comes to matters of love, wow, this is a huge turning point moment for the Libras. Whether it has to do with a past situation or a present situation. Change must happen. The energy will shift. Because of this heightened vulnerability now, it does suggest that someone is there to help you to understand where you are in love and how you feel about it. And whether or not it is that something's happening with somebody else, it is leading you to an understanding of how you feel about what has been in love and where you are now and how that's going to speak to your future. Because the past can inform the future, but healing the past has a way of changing the future as well. And that becomes especially true in love. For those of you open to meeting someone new, there's very likely going to be a key interaction with somebody else that awakens something within you, perhaps some vulnerability, maybe some anger, passion, very possible now as well. It may feel scary to put yourself out there. It makes you confront your own insecurities in some way. Or it could be that you're meeting somebody new, but they've got a lot of healing to do. There's a lot going on there. And you get to decide whether or not you're up for it. Your answers are going to be uniquely your own. Now, regardless of what does or doesn't transpire with another, understand that there's a sense on your part of getting more clear about where you've been and what you're still carrying and what you no longer need to carry. Where it is that perhaps your work is to be more open, especially on a heart level, to connecting with people in a meaningful way. And where it is that certain vulnerabilities are good, they're necessary to move towards love. But other vulnerabilities, to get there, it has to be earned if it's going to mean anything at all. For those of you just starting to date someone, I see this as a big turning point moment. And for the Libras, this is likely to be an all or nothing kind of moment. Either what you're seeing now makes you feel like you really want to accelerate things. You're feeling like you're diving deep. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot of motivation and determination. Or you're seeing things now that you realize this is not it. This is not for you. There is that tension that's under the surface, But how safe do you feel with this person? That's going to be the guiding question now. And if you feel genuinely safe with them, this is where that vulnerability just grows and helps you feel that much closer. But if you don't feel that sense of safety there, it just isn't going to matter. You're going another way. And for those of you in an established bond, well, look, the overwhelming majority are going to find this a time of bonding that much more deeply to this person that you love, that you care about. And this can be one of those moments where, yes, there is a heightened vulnerability, a greater honesty, a greater openness, even if it's hard. The motivation is there. But there is going to be a small percentage out there. If you felt for a while that maybe you're not in the right relationship for you, you're going to have to look at that, what that feeling's about, what's really going on. And this could be that turning point. It's an all or nothing moment. Either it is that there's just too much hurt. It just has you feeling wounded, so much so that the frustration, it's reached a point now that it's no longer working for you. Or it's going to be one of those moments where you become aware of how maybe it's your own vulnerabilities that have lent themselves to the current circumstance that you're in. Or it's going to be a resolve to do the work that love sometimes requires. Regardless, though, your answers will be uniquely your own, and there is a need for shared participation in order to move in that direction of ultimately having the kind of relationship you deserve. That doesn't feel like you are being hurt, or that this other person feels like you are making choices that are hurting them. What I love about this month for you, there's so much here. It's a powerful and meaningful astrological moment. I'm going to say I love the energy of, well, the eclipse in your sign. That's a really big deal. You're not going to see an eclipse again in your sign for about 9 years. And so this is a big turning point moment. It is meaningful. It is valuable. And it's one of those moments now that can be positively uplifting. It's one of those moments that helps you to see yourself differently. Yes, there's the share of frustration, but that can be channeled into very purposeful, directed action. It can end up being a game changer, and it's you that changes. Very likely in ways that will stay with you for a very, very long time to come. Well, thank you so much for watching. You can get a video like this each and every week for each and every sign for as low as just $3 a month with Choose Your Membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Links are in the description below. Thank you again for watching. It'll be a great month. Enjoy.